My next guest, his father was a longshoreman, his mother was a city hall clerk and a Democratic committee woman. He put himself through Fordham University, became student body president, graduated with a degree in business administration, started a company called Human Scale, one of the world's top 10 design firms specializing in office seating. He is currently the chairman of the San Francisco Republican Party, also vice chair of the Republican Liberty Caucus. He and his wife live in Pacific Heights, and he's been a resident in San Francisco for some 30 years. Please welcome to the program a Republican candidate for Congress, hopefully against Nancy Pelosi, Mr. John Dennis. John Dennis, how are you? I'm sorry, John, I didn't have you on. John, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
You probably gave a wonderful reaction, and I didn't have the mic on.
I'm used to that kind of applause, so that's okay.
I'm new in this business. All right, John. John, you ran before against her a couple of times ago, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, a while back at 10 and 12.
And?
Well, listen, it's a tough race. Somebody told me it's probably the toughest congressional race in America when you consider the level of Republican registration and the fact that she's Nancy Pelosi, one of the most powerful women or people ever in American politics. It's a tough race, but we've always done punched way above our weight, and it's a different time. This is an election where Democrats in San Francisco wouldn't dream challenge Nancy Pelosi, 5 years ago. And now there are three Bernie acolytes, Bernie Sanders followers, challenging Nancy Pelosi from the left. So she's about as vulnerable as I've ever seen her, so I'm looking forward to this race.
Well, John Dennis, as you know, in California we have what's called a jungle primary, so it's not uncommon for the top two finishers to be in the same party squaring off against each other. How do you avoid that happening in this race?
Well, in 12 and in 14, when I ran against Pelosi, the voters had two choices in the general election: Nancy Pelosi and John Dennis, and I fully expect that to happen again. I've been around, I've been engaged in civic activities for a long time now, and I've even got some begrudging respect from the left, got some endorsements from folks on the left, and I fully expect to be the challenger to Nancy Pelosi in November 2020. Has
the California Republican Party endorsed you?
No, the party hasn't endorsed me yet, but that's coming forthwith. What happens is the county central committees have to do the endorsements, and then the party endorses after that. But I've been the party's endorsee, 3 times, so that shouldn't be an issue.
It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that you'll be endorsed by the California GOP. All right, how about money? What does Nancy Pelosi have in her war chest?
Well, Pelosi raises a lot of money, rarely spends it. It makes me wonder what she's doing with it. But she's raised, I think, a little more than $1 million, and we're up to, as of our last filing, we've raised 150. But I've done this before. My first race against Nancy Pelosi, I raised 2.5. And I don't think we'll hit those numbers, but we should do well. But having said that, I would be remiss if I didn't invite your audience to donate to my donate to my campaign on my website, which is very simple, johndennis.com.
And John Dennis, how do you tell people that they're not wasting their money? You've run against her twice. She's beaten you pretty handily. You pointed out the lopsided registration, Democrats versus Republicans. She's got a lot of money. She's very powerful. What's the path to beat her? How do you tell people to dig into their hard-earned pockets and give you money?
Well, for a couple of reasons. One, this is the most vulnerable she's ever been. We live in the city that has drug addicts, homeless people sleeping and going to the bathroom on the sidewalk and throwing discarded bloody needles all over the place. People in San Francisco are sick of it. They are complaining about the quality of life, and Nancy Pelosi just enables it and lets it happen. So she's never been more vulnerable. But also, we have a new weapon in our arsenal, something that we didn't have 10 years ago. It was just sort of beginning, which is the social media revolution, Twitter. And if you think about it, Twitter and social media are sort of like assignment editors for newspapers. Nancy Pelosi could ignore people in the past, but with a big Twitter following and a big army of people out there, she can't ignore us anymore. So I'd also encourage you to follow me at John Dennis SF, like as in San Francisco, John Dennis SF.
John Dennis, how does impeachment play a role in this at all? She initially said that she did not want to have an impeachment inquiry. She did a 180 on it and is now championing an impeachment inquiry. What role will impeachment play in this race?
That's going to make her very unpopular because it's not going to go well. And in fact, in 2010, we won. The Republicans took back 63 seats and took back the Congress. I think that this impeachment is going to unfold in a sort of a similar way. You're going to see a huge red wave. It's going to, make Nancy Pelosi very vulnerable, and she just looks bad. This whole impeachment thing smells to high heaven, and she's utterly and completely responsible. Impeachment is Nancy Pelosi's baby, and it's going to come back to haunt her in 2020.
My guest is Republican John Dennis. He's running against Nancy Pelosi. His website is johndennis.com, johndennis.com. Real quickly, John, we only have a few seconds left. I would have thought that the poop issue would have really caused a lot of people who are normally Democrats to say there's something going on here.
Well, they are, and they're sick of stepping over it. They're sick of stepping over people. The homeless crowd is getting more agitated, and they're getting more violent. And it's causing. We are very optimistic about our prospects as Republicans in the city. We feel like we're turning the tide, and I feel like we're going to see an urban revival for Republicans starting right here in the most liberal city in America, San Francisco.
JohnDennis.com, JohnDennis.com. John, we'll have you back. Good luck.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it.
You're listening to The Larry Elder Show.